The movie In Time, 2011, takes the viewer to the futuristic year 2169, where time has become the main currency that determines not only social status, but life itself. In this world, people are genetically programmed to stop aging at the age of 25. But from that point on, they only get 1 year of life. Each person has a timer on their arm that counts down the seconds remaining. When the timer goes to 0, the person dies instantly. Time can be earned, spent, or given to others, making it a universal currency. Elite zones like New Greenwich keep tens of thousands of years in the hands of the richest people, who live virtually forever. In contrast, poor zones like Dayton are places where most people rarely have more than a day to live, and their lives are turned into a constant struggle for survival. The division of society into time zones emphasizes the vast gulf between the rich and the poor. Those who live in luxury have practically forgotten what it means to value time, while the ghetto dwellers have to fight for every minute on a daily basis. This harsh world becomes the backdrop for the story of Will Salas, who decides to challenge the unjust system. Will Salas lives in Dayton, a time-poor area where every new day is a struggle for survival. Here, time is not just a currency but a real necessity of life. Most people work hard in low-paid jobs to extend their lives by a few hours. Every time the timer on their hand goes to 0, they have to struggle to earn a few more minutes. For Dayton residents, the constant fear of the timer going to 0 has become a familiar condition. Will lives with his mother Rachel, and their lives are a series of brief, almost meaningless moments of peace, interrupted by constant worries about time. Rachel works hard to earn enough time to pay her debts and extend her life, while Will toils in a factory where pay is minimal and working conditions are grueling. They rarely have more than a day on their timers, making every second of their existence extremely valuable. Dayton is a place where any sudden increase in prices can cause someone's death. Transportation, food, housing, everything is paid for by time, and even a second's delay can lead to tragedy. In this harsh world, Will remains a man who sees the injustice of the system. He realizes that the elite from New Greenwich control the lives of the poor by creating an artificial time deficit to maintain their immortality. However, like most Dayton residents, he doesn't know how to change this reality. Will's life in Dayton is a daily reminder of the fragility of existence and the injustice that pervades the world. But this tough environment builds his character, preparing him for future challenges that will require courage, determination, and a willingness to fight for more. One evening, after a hard day's work, Will Salas goes to a local bar to get a little distraction from the constant struggle for time. The atmosphere in the bar is tense, as it always is in Daytona. Customers are preoccupied with their timers, which are inexorably counting down the last minutes of their lives. Among the noisy crowd, Will notices a stranger, Henry Hamilton, who stands out for his calmness and unusually large amount of time. The timer on his arm shows more than a century, which in a poor area is perceived as something incredible. However, Henry's wealth attracts the attention not only of Will, but also of the Minuteman gang led by Forties. These time robbers prey on the likes of Henry to take their stock and increase their own. The situation quickly becomes dangerous, with the bandits surrounding Henry and threatening him. Will, seeing that Henry is in trouble, makes the decision to intervene. Risking his own life, he helps Henry escape from the bar and takes him to safety. In the hideout, Will and Henry have a conversation that changes Will's view of the world forever. Henry talks about his past and how the system works. He explains that the wealthy elite from New Greenwich control the distribution of time, creating artificial scarcity in poor areas to maintain power. The prices of products and services are constantly rising, forcing people like Will to live with the constant fear of the timer going to 0. Henry confesses that he is tired of living in a world where time is a tool of control and immortality becomes an empty routine. His words make Will think about the unfairness of the system and the fact that his own life is just a result of the manipulation of the elite. This encounter becomes a turning point for Will, awakening in him a desire for change. Henry is not only rescued by Will, but inspires him to start fighting the system that denies the poor the right to a life of dignity. Waking up in the morning, Will Salas discovers that his timer shows over 100 years. Henry Hamilton has given him all of his time. Will is shocked by such a gift, but soon learns that Henry has voluntarily ended his life. This act comes as a shock to Will and awakens in him questions about the fairness of the system. Meanwhile, the timekeepers, suspecting Will of Henry's murder, begin to pursue him. Will now finds himself at the center of the accusations and is forced to leave Dayton, where his sudden wealth has attracted too much attention. He decides to go to New Greenwich to understand how the system works and use his time to fight injustice. With a huge amount of time on the timer, Will Salas rushes home to share his newfound wealth with his mother Rachel. He dreams of saving her from the constant fear of the timer resetting and giving her a peaceful life. However, tragedy is on its way. Rachel, coming home from work, finds her timer coming to an end. She could have gotten home on time by bus, but fares suddenly rise, and she doesn't have enough time to pay. In desperation, Rachel runs to Will's house, hoping to get some life-saving seconds. Seeing her from afar, Will rushes to meet her, but they don't make it in time. Rachel's timer resets to 0 moments before he could hand her his time. She goes out of time, right in his arms. This loss becomes a turning point in Will's life. The grief and rage of realizing the injustice of the system awakens his determination to fight. Will vows to destroy the order that has robbed him of his most precious possessions. The loss of Rachel transforms his pain into the strength to fight for justice. After the tragic death of his mother, Will Salas decides to leave Dayton and travel to New Greenwich, an area where time is concentrated in the hands of the richest people. With the vast amount of time left to him by Henry Hamilton, Will crosses the boundaries that separate the poor and the rich. For him, it's not just a move to another world, but a chance to challenge the system that has condemned his mother and thousands of others to misery. Arriving in New Greenwich, Will is confronted with a shocking contrast. Here, no one is in a hurry, and people manage their time with a carelessness unavailable to the poor. The timers on the locals' hands show centuries, and they no longer fear that their time will run out. Will realizes that this is a world where time is not life, but a symbol of power and status. Will tries to adapt to his new environment so that he doesn't stand out. His behavior and manners, shaped by his life in Daytona, help him keep his mind sharp and courageous. He soon meets Sylvia Weis, an influential businessman, and his daughter Sylvia. Their acquaintance becomes an important step in Will's plan to infiltrate the system to change it from within. In New Greenwich, Will Salas decides to try his luck and heads to an elite casino where time becomes a bet. Here he encounters a world where people dispose of decades as easily as the poor in Daytona struggle for minutes. At the poker table, Will meets Sylvia Weis, a powerful businessman who manages much of New Greenwich's wealth. Putting almost all of his time on the line, Will plays on the edge, and tension peaks as his timer approaches 0. However, thanks to his coolness and intuition, he wins over 1,000 years' worth of money, shocking the casino guests. His victory attracts the attention of Sylvia Weis, Philip's daughter, who invites him to a party. After winning at the casino, Will Salas attracts the attention of the timekeepers. When he is arrested at a party at Sylvia Weis's house, Will decides to take a chance and escapes, taking Sylvia hostage. Their escape becomes the beginning of a complicated but gradually developing relationship. Sylvia, accustomed to a life of luxury in New Greenwich, faces for the first time the harsh reality of the poor zones, where time counts for everyone. As she travels, Sylvia begins to see the injustice of the system she grew up in. Her outlook on life changes from hostage to ally to Will. Together they decide to fight for change by joining forces. Their alliance becomes a powerful weapon against the system. Will and Sylvia realize that only together can they challenge the order that holds millions of people in bondage to time. Will Salas and Sylvia Weis decide to help the people of poor zones by giving away their time. They hand out capsules with years of life, hoping that this will make a difference. However, they soon realize that the system immediately reacts to their actions. The prices of food and services in Dayton begin to rise even faster, driving people into desperate situations once again. This discovery becomes a disappointment for Will and Sylvia. They realize that simply allocating time does not change the structure of a system that is designed to control. Nevertheless, they decide to continue the fight. Together they confront a gang of Minutemen led by Fortes, which proves their determination to go all the way. Will Salas and Sylvia Weis decide to deal a serious blow to the system by robbing one of the largest banks of time, owned by Sylvia Weis. They seize a million-year capsule, realizing that this act could change the lives of thousands of people in poor zones. The heist is successful, but their actions immediately attract the attention of the timekeepers. Raymond Leon, the leader of the timekeepers, personally leads the chase for Will and Sylvia. They are chased through multiple zones, but the pair find a way to escape using cunning and determination. During the chase, they continue to hand out time capsules to help people. Will Salas and Sylvia Weis return to Dayton with a capsule containing 1,000,000 years of time. Their goal is to distribute this vast resource to the inhabitants of the impoverished area to give people a chance at survival. As they give away time, they see thousands of people gain their freedom, freeing themselves from the constant fear of the timer resetting. Meanwhile, the timekeepers, led by Raymond Leon, are closing in on them to stop the giveaway. At the last moment, Leon forgets to refill his own timer and goes out of time, allowing Will and Sylvia to complete their mission. Leon's death becomes a symbol that even the representatives of the system are not immune to its rules. After Will Salas and Sylvia Weis give away 1,000,000 years of time to the people of Dayton, the world begins to change. People, freed for the first time from the constant struggle for seconds, leave the factories and return to their lives. Factories are closing and the system built on inequality begins to crumble. There is no longer a sense of constant scarcity in poor areas, and hope for a better future becomes a reality. In New Greenwich, the elite begin to realize that their privilege no longer protects them from change. The loss of control over time becomes a symbol that the system does not last forever. Will and Sylvia, who have become symbols of resistance, decide not to stop. Their goal is to achieve the total destruction of the unjust order and build a world where time belongs to everyone. The final scene shows Will and Sylvia facing a new challenge. They head towards their next goal, ready to continue the fight. Their story concludes not as an end, but as the beginning of a new era. An era in which everyone has the right to life and freedom without the boundaries of time.